Hello, everybody. Welcome to this week's Wisdom Wednesday. My name is Kristen Gear. I am the Director of Operations and one of the Managing Directors for BNI Arizona. And every single week, I come to you providing a weekly education nugget called Wisdom Wednesday that counts as one chapter education unit for watching. So thank you so much for tuning in to this week's edition. I'm supporting my ugly Christmas sweater today, so Merry Gainesmas. It could definitely go with Jim Gaines or, hey, Giver's Gaines, right? Kind of all ties in. So thank you guys so much for coming in. I hope that you guys are ramping up, preparing for an amazing holiday season. Can't believe Christmas is this weekend and New Year's is next week. Where has this year gone? It's crazy that we are already at the end of the year. So I hope that you all are going to spend lots of time with friends and family. This is also a great opportunity to catch up on some one-to-ones. So if you're in town, connect with people from other chapters. You could even connect with potential power partners in other states right now. So over the next week, utilize that time to build upon the relationships in BNI so you can connect with people all over Arizona, all over the world. There is a search option, so if you wanted to connect with BNI members in other states or other countries, if you log into BNI Connect, there's a little magnifying glass in the top right-hand corner, and when you click on that, you can search for members all around the world. So if you type in a certain profession, especially a power partner of yours, or someone in your own profession. So if you are someone that's licensed and can be licensed in different states, but if there are certain states that you're not currently licensed in, that would be a great opportunity to connect with BNI members in the states that you're not connected in. That way, if you potentially get a referral for someone in that state, you have a warm connection that you can refer over to. So those are just some tips to start building some relationships and maximize this downtime in BNI, especially if your chapter is not meeting next week. It would be a perfect opportunity to continue building those relationships and set up a couple one-to-ones while you're at it. But today's education is all about creating the best visitor experience. So I don't know if you remember your very first visit to a BNI chapter and how it made you feel. So one of the things that we really want to make sure that we're maximizing on is making our visitors feel extra special when they visit our chapters. So there's a few things that I wanted to touch on to see if you guys are also doing these things already, and if not, it'd be a perfect opportunity to incorporate some of these things into your chapter to help increase that visitor experience. So the first thing is when someone registers. So when someone registers for your chapter meeting, the leadership team gets notification of it and the visitor host team gets notification of those visitors. Now, when that notification comes in, the best thing to do is to, one, they'll already receive the basic information about your chapter meeting of where, when you guys meet, with some basic BNI information, but it would be so helpful to send an additional email, and this can definitely be from the visitor host. It could be from the coordinator or any of the follow-up specialists on the team, or really any of the visitor host team members. But if someone's assigned to then send an email to the visitors as soon as they register, welcoming them, letting them know that we're looking forward to their visit, maybe even prepare them with a few little things of that they're going to be able to speak during the meeting. And if your location is hard to find, it also would be good to send that additional information to let them know exactly where you meet. I had the same email sent to me when I registered for the BNI True North meeting this week. So I received an email letting me know all about the chapter and exactly where they met at the location. That way, for me as a visitor, it gave me a great feeling that I knew exactly where I was going when I was coming to the meeting, because first-time visitors, especially depending on your location, sometimes it's harder to find the actual meeting room, especially Orange Tree. There's like 5 different rooms at Orange Tree. So making sure your visitors know where exactly at your location that they need to go. That way, as soon as they show up at the location, they aren't confused and are searching all over the campus trying to figure out where you guys are meeting. So preparing the visitors to have the best experience is the initial step. So once they register, it would be so great to send them an email coming directly from the chapter, letting them know that we're super excited that they are coming to visit for your chapter meeting. Now the next piece, when they show up, guys, we want to make sure our visitor hosts are at the door with the check-in so that way they can check into the sign-in sheets, get them a sticky name tag so that way everyone will know their name and know that they are a visitor. That's why we have amazing member name tags so that way the visitors know who's a member. And then we have those sticky name tags for our visitors. So that way everyone knows exactly who they are and what their name is. Now, while they're at that sign-in table, another added benefit for that visitor is if your chapter has a little baggie full of all of the chapter's business cards. That's a great little takeaway. I know some chapters have the business card binder still, and if you're passing it around, some of the visitors kind of lose track of where they're at in the meeting if they're having to flip through all the pages to find business cards for the members. So that could be an added benefit, is to create little baggies full of everyone's business card in it. That way, as soon as the visitor walks in the door, they're handed that little packet of business cards. That way, they're already covered. They don't have to connect with the members to find a business card during the meeting. Also, a great opportunity for that visitor information to have the members' information is the golden tickets. So I hope now that every chapter has a golden ticket and or chapter placemat. So they kind of look like this. They've got all the chapters information on the back. One of the biggest things is we also want to make sure that the visitors know not to spam our members. That happens occasionally, but we want to make sure that the visitors know not to spam our members. Also, while they're at the sign-in table, so they're signed in, they're kind of getting their information, they're collecting their cards. One of the biggest things that we also want to make sure that we don't do, guys, is when it's their first time visiting, they're signing in, please, 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 do not ask them to sub for one of your members. Do not do that. We want them to have the best experience. Being a first-time visitor is nerve-wracking already, and if we're having them sign in and then they really don't know a whole lot about BNI, and then we're like, hey, so-and-so is going to be absent today. Do you mind subbing for them? They have no clue what that means, and they don't know that member, so the chances of them giving an amazing presentation for them are very low, but now their nervous level is now probably at a higher level because they're like, oh my gosh, now I have to sub for someone. I don't know what that means. So we want to make sure that if we're connecting with a visitor to substitute for someone, we need to connect with them before they show up to the meeting, guys. Because when they're at the sign-in table, if we're asking them to sub for a member, it's like inviting them to a party and asking them to take out the trash. That's not cool. That's not giving them the best visitor experience. So we do not want to ask someone to sub for a member as they're signing into the meeting. You always want to ask someone prior to them showing up. That way they can mentally prepare to sub for that member, right? So we want to make sure we're giving them and we're preparing them as much as possible. So that's a really big thing, guys. So once they're done signing in and we're not asking them to sub for anybody and they've gotten the business cards, we also want to ask them if they have business cards so that way we can pass them out during the meeting. Many chapters have little containers that they can put the visitors' business cards. That way it's easier to pass around during the meeting. I know that some chapters don't have a container, so they just make piles and they pass them around once the meeting starts. So however works best for you guys, but I know that having a container or something to physically pass around the room definitely makes it easier and more organized, especially for the members to pass the business cards around. Then we want to connect them with the visitor host open networker, so that way they can then enlighten them a little bit more of what's going to happen during the meeting, and then they can introduce them to potential power partners. That way they can feel comfortable with being in the meeting. They are kind of getting to know their surroundings during open networking. You can let them know if there's a special place where the restrooms are located, kind of get their bearings, how to order food, where some beverages are. So whatever things that are associated with your chapter meeting, we want to make sure that the visitor is well equipped to participate in the meetings. And those open networkers can remind them that they'll have an opportunity to speak during the meeting. That way they can start to think about it during that open networking section, but they will have plenty of time as the members are doing their presentations before they give theirs. So at least it'll give them a little time to prepare for their own presentation. And this is also why, guys, we don't want to ask them to sub for a member during the members portion, because then they're having to pay attention, worry about subbing for a member before they get to really dive into their own presentation. So we want to give them as much time as possible to mentally prepare for themselves to give their own presentation during the meeting. Then, as the meeting's going along, they gave their presentation, they're hearing the feature presentation, they've got the referrals and testimonials. We always want to have visitors share what they enjoyed about the meeting. So not what they liked or didn't like about the meeting. So the conversation is always going to be what they enjoyed about the meeting during that referrals and testimonial section. The visitors go in line with the members, so it's not members first, then visitors. Everyone can go together. That way they're all trickled in. They're not singled out at the very end. So that opportunity, they're going to be able to see the relationships and the dynamic from all the members during referrals and testimonials. And so I've seen so many great testimonials from visitors during that section as well. So we never want to open it up for anything negative to be talked about during the meeting. So if they have constructive feedback, hey, you know what? We can learn all about that in the visitor orientation, because right after referrals and testimonials, the president then introduces those visitors to our visitor host orientation facilitators to walk them out of the room to then go over the application process and to answer any questions that they may have. That way they can have a one-on-one conversation with the visitor host orientation facilitator to get everything going. Now, the reason why we have that visitor orientation right after referrals and testimonials instead at the very end of the meeting is because the rest of the meeting is technically considered the members only section of the meeting. That's when the secretary treasurer will go over renewals, we'll cover events like chapter dues that are owed. So not a lot of exciting information for visitors to hear, but the biggest thing is making sure that we're mindful of the visitors' time as well. Just like we're mindful of members' time to make sure we start and end the meetings on time every week, we want to make sure we're mindful of the visitors' time as well. That's why we have the orientation before the meeting ends. That way that orientation and the meeting should wrap up at about the same time. That way we're being respectful of the visitors' time as well and not keeping them later than the time that we had promised them that the meeting would go to. So there's lots of tools for the visitor orientation. So we've got chapter information sheets available that will kind of walk them through all the information of how to apply to your chapter, letting them know about member success program training and that there's a mentor program. And then we also have, once they apply to the chapter, our leadership teams have an application cheat sheet that also encourages those applicants to be active during their application process. So the biggest thing is, because I know that you guys know that someone can only visit 2 times before submitting an application. 2 times. So once they submit an application, though, they can come every single week until a decision is made on their application. A lot of applicants don't know that. So we want to make sure to communicate that with them So that way they continue to come to the weekly meetings until a decision is made on their application. We also want to encourage them to start setting up one-to-ones and start building those relationships right from day one. That way our members can start to get to know them, and that way our power teams can also provide valuable feedback to our membership committees because once that person submits an application, our power teams should be relaying information to our membership committee of if this person is going to be a great fit for the power team. Now, the power team doesn't have the deciding powers to vote on the applicant unless they're on the membership committee, but having that feedback delivered to the membership committee is going to help tremendously in that interviewing process. So we want to make sure that we're already setting up those one-to-ones, we're making sure that the applicants are attending the weekly meetings, and encouraging them to invite potential visitors that are in open categories for the chapter. So we want to start to kind of incorporate things in the BNI culture right from day one. As soon as they submit the application, that way it will be less overwhelming once they do join, because then it's just adding a few extra things with passing referrals and doing some chapter education units. So those are the easy parts with kind of that new membership, because when you're a new member, it's like drinking from a fire hose. There's so much stuff to learn about BNI. I know for me, it took me like 6 months to really grasp everything about BNI when I first became a member almost 13 years ago. So we want to make sure that we're creating the best experience for the visitors, and then as they transition to applicants and then potential members, we want to make sure that that experience transitions throughout that whole time. So today's whole Wisdom Wednesday is all about creating that best visitor experience, because then it will make that transition from being a visitor to then being an applicant to then becoming a new member even that much better. So if you have any questions about any of the items that I talked about today, such as the tools for the visitor orientation, or even ideas around the visitor sign-in table, packets for the business cards, or a container to hold the business cards, if anything I mentioned today, you're like, ooh, I want more information on that, email me, and I'm happy to provide you with more information around what I talked about today. And my email is kristen@bniarizona.com. Thank you guys so much for attending this week's edition of Wisdom Wednesday, and remember to record one chapter education unit for watching. Thanks so much, guys. I hope you have an amazing holiday and have a happy new year, and we will see you all next year. Have a great day, guys.